Hey everyone, I'm Matthew Evans, and welcome to another behind-the-scenes video from Los Matatas Studios. Right now, we're going to take you back to a memorable weekend at the end of July of this year when we made our 12th 48-hour short film all the way up in Dillon, Colorado. Welcome to the behind-the-scenes of Submerged. Now, if you've been watching this channel for any amount of time, you know that we love making 48-hour short films where you have to write, shoot, and edit a short film in only 48 hours. We especially love making them for the 48-hour film project, and we've done the Albuquerque one here many years in a row at this point. Last year, we tried doing the 48-hour film project in a different city for the first time when we made The Return of Bud Hawk in Wilmington, North Carolina. That was a big success. We had a lot of fun making that movie, and it ended up winning first in the Wilmington competition that year. So in 2023, the thought was crossing our mind again, what if we tried making a 48-hour film in a different city for a second time? We decided that it would be an exciting and challenging opportunity to go and participate in the Denver 48-hour film project.
Denver was happening and I went, can we please do the Denver one? I really want to do another one and just get it right. And I feel like we got it right on this one.
Well, we threw out an invitation to people that had competed with us in like our last two films that we had worked on. Surprisingly, lots of people responded that yeah, they would love to do a road trip with us and then do another really hard, frustrating, like super stressful project again. So there must be something fun about working with us.
Now, I, along with Ryan and AJ, who were driving with me, headed to Denver so that we could actually attend the kickoff event in person. While the other two cars of people headed directly to Dillon, Colorado, which is about an hour outside of Denver up in the Rocky Mountains, where we were planning to kind of base camp and make the film that weekend. So at the kickoff, as always, we pulled a paper out of a hat revealing our genre choice for this year. We got a choice between two different genres, and our short film had to be in one of those two genres.
The genre we got was horror or medical/doctor film. So we have never made a horror film straight up, and that's not really a genre that we enjoy watching, so that wasn't something we were leaning towards, but we did feel like we could probably swing some elements of horror if the story required it.
Also at the kickoff, we got our required elements, the prop, character, and line that had to appear somewhere in the film.
This year for the Denver 48-hour film project, the required elements are your character, Chris or Christy Levoto, newcomer. Prop, a tomato. The line of dialogue. Congratulations, you won.
As soon as we got those, we started working on brainstorming, coming up with ideas. So we started doing that in the car on the drive to the Airbnb.
So as we're driving, Evelyn and I are kind of brainstorming back and forth. Chloe and Rowan were also kind of giving us some ideas as well. And something that Evelyn landed on that we tried to keep because it just seemed like one of those ideas that really clicked was like a visual of setting something down on water and having it float away as like a representation of like releasing trauma or like a visual for whatever the emotional crux of the story was going to be. And so that was something that was like, oh, that's good, we got to keep that.
The imagery of somebody letting go of pain and hurt, that was another really important thing to me, was that in order to heal, you have to be willing to let go of the pain and the hurt. And so I really wanted that imagery. And so we were able to get that with the image of the flowers and him being in the water. We were able to catch all of that, I think, really well.
Ooh, what's a doctor that we can pull off? A therapist. So that's kind of where that started happening. And then we got a call from the guy's car. They'd left the draw at that point, and Ryan had a really fascinating idea. Like, I think it was a car accident in his version of the story, where there's a car crash and like a guy survives, but his daughter and his wife die, and there was like someone else driving the car, and he was like projecting, he was imagining that it was someone else who caused the accident, but it was actually him, and then that would be revealed as a twist. And so we were like, Ryan, thanks for your idea. We're now going to take it and mush it into the story stuff that we kind of were already running with, as far as like more of an outdoor accident and like just limited amount of characters, and we didn't want it to be too close to certain other story elements that we'd played with in Charlie with the car accident that killed a mom and a daughter. So we wanted to work with the twist that Ryan had come up with and the elements we'd already been brainstorming, and that kind of eventually, after several hours of like in the car and then getting to the Airbnb and then basically just like unloading all of our stuff and then sitting down to like write feverishly for the next few hours, we actually had a pretty solid framework pretty quickly on this one.
Writers have words.
We do words.
Words is words. Words is important.
And we word importantly.
We word very importantly.
We are the important worders.
We have the worded all down. We can even do Wordle, although I fail that constantly, so never mind, we don't do Wordle. While Seriah and I are typing away, and we're coming up with a story, basically we knew that Dillon Lake was right there. We had this beautiful, gorgeous lake, and we went, great. So we started typing out a story that had to do with a lake. We knew we had a canoe, so we wanted to work with those two themes.
With this one, I was like, what if we drowned someone in a lake? And Evelyn liked that idea as well, because we really wanted to be able to utilize the canoe that we'd lugged all the way up from New Mexico.
It was now my job to work on finding us a location to do that. Of course, my first thought was Dillon Reservoir, this big reservoir that was right where we were staying. But I did a little bit of research online and quickly discovered that you're not allowed to swim in Dillon Reservoir at all. I'm supposed to look directly into the lens, right? That's how this works?
Yep. Yes.
And we went, cool story, find us a lake, because we are not undoing this story.
There was a lake a little further north of Dillon that looked like it had some campgrounds and, even better, day use areas around the shore that we were hopefully going to be able to use. We had to hope that these locations were going to work, or else the whole film was going to pretty quickly fall apart.
Currently, I'm reading over what we wrote last night. Kind of looking for things that need to be tweaked. And I haven't reread the last ending, because the ending was the part that we were really unsure on / rewriting a couple times last night. So this is my first fresh look at it today after a couple hours of sleep.
It is currently 7:17 a.m. and I'm feeling pretty good. We got a lot to do today. It's going to be a big, probably stressful at times day. But...
It's his birthday!
Oh yeah, it's my birthday.
Happy birthday!
We got a movie to make. Don't stop talking about the birthday. We got a movie to make. How are you feeling so far this morning?
Energized, more energized than usual. Yeah, I feel good for having woken up so early. Thanks to Ben for making the coffee. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. I did have a point.
So I'm 2 cups of coffee and I feel fantastic.
Nice. How are you feeling about what we're heading out to do at the lake?
I'm not sure if I regret the whole I want to push myself thing, because now we're getting in a freezing cold lake. I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Yeah.
I'll be more certain when I'm in it. Mm-hmm. But I can almost feel it now.
Yeah.
As I think about getting in, I can feel it shocking my bones. So
the next day was our big day to film the movie. We had casting figured out. AJ, our cinematographer, was ready with all of his camera equipment. We had the canoe loaded up on the car, and we headed out to the lake location that I had found online.
But when we pulled up to the area that was supposed to be day use, we even got the canoe down. We were scouting. There wasn't a lot of forest around the area. It was pretty open by the lake. It was a big lake, so it was a weekend in July at a lake in Colorado. It was super busy. And then when we went to pay for our spot, we realized it was reserved. So we had to pack up and leave to not risk being interrupted in the middle of shooting, and also because someone else had already reserved the spot.
I had seen also online this smaller lake a little higher up in the mountains called Lower Cataract Lake. At that point, it was our only option. So we headed up to Lower Cataract Lake. As soon as I got there, I went ahead and hiked to the lake, discovered that it was only about a quarter mile, so it wasn't that bad of a hike as far as length or anything. And when I saw the lake, I was blown away. Lower Cataract Lake was completely worth the wait and was definitely the right choice for the location for this film.
We get there and we all go, oh yeah, this is the place. This is the place that we're supposed to be. It was gorgeous. Very few people, and the people that were there were kind of in their own little catty corner coves. We kind of got our own little cove to work in.
It was beautiful. It was a prettier lake than the first lake. It was smaller, so that meant there were less people. There were still some other groups there, but not so many that we couldn't spread out around the lake and not be in each other's business.
It just became the perfect place. I don't think we could have asked for a better shooting location for what we wanted to do. Here you will notice the nature documentary of trees. There's a waterfall. That's nature.
So we got to work filming. The filming for this was complex. It went really, really well. We had a very talented cast, but from a directing perspective, this film was challenging because there are layers to the story where the same series of events plays out multiple times, but each time that it plays out, there's some slight changes in some of the details. We had the additional challenge of trying to make sure that people didn't get prematurely soaked from the lake. We had scenes where they needed to be dry, and then we had scenes where people needed it to be wet, where they needed to actually be in the water. And so we had to really think very carefully about how to film those scenes in the right order, because we didn't really have any sort of opportunity for our actors to get in the water and get soaked and then dry off again and then get soaked and just go back and forth. We didn't have that flexibility, especially because of their costumes. It's not like we had multiple sets of costumes that they could change back into a new dry but of the same costume. That just wasn't going to work. So instead, we had to be very deliberate and careful in thinking through the correct order to put all of these scenes in. And what that meant actually was that we had to film wildly out of order. We were jumping all over the place. We needed to see Gaudry and Chloe and Ryan all do drowning stunts in the water. And I cannot praise the three of them highly enough for what they pulled off with this. They went really, really hard when we actually got to filming these stunts. I don't think I could have done what they did in flailing around the water, going under, coming back up, gasping for air, the whole 9 yards. It was a very intense performance by all three of them. And if you've seen the film, you know it's some of the most intense parts of the film, and it really is a key critical part of the story. So I'm very, very impressed with them.
My role mainly consisted of keeping track of scenes and manning the clapper and making sure that we were on track for keeping everything slated correctly. And then but in order to do the clapper, one must be in the water with all the other water people. So I think AJ and I were the crew that kind of mainly stayed in the water basically most of the time, just because it was easier. I think we reached a point where it was just like, it's just easier just to stay in the water. It's a little bit warmer to stay in the water than get out and back in consistently. So basically spent most of the day in the water, and thankfully the sun was out, bright, shining, kept the water nice and tepid, warm, like lukewarm. And then I wound up being the person that got Gaudry out of the water, pulled him up for that one moment, just because it wound up working easier that way. But it was really cool to see that. I think that was the moment that made all of the water moments worth it. That moment of getting to be the person pulling somebody back up and just getting to see it basically right as the camera would see it, getting to have that moment, it was amazing. It was so cool.
We were able to wrap up all of our scenes at the lake. Everyone did a phenomenal job. We toted the canoe back to the parking lot and headed back to our Airbnb because we still had more of the film to shoot. We weren't done yet just because we had finished at the lake. Back at the Airbnb, the first thing that we did was to get a couple of scenes that involved a drowned Kaya character that was kind of appearing in the background as a ghost. Seriah, as the makeup artist, did a really, really cool job making Chloe Rose, our actress, look drowned.
We wanted her to look dead, but we also wanted her to look drowned. So when we were at the lake, we actually got a container of mud and lake weed and sludge from the bottom of the lake, brought it all the way back to the Airbnb, and once she was all make-upped, we had her stand over a towel for the indoor shots, and then we just like slathered her head in the mud and the seaweed. She was great about it. And then right before we shot, in order to give that like dripping effect, we literally just dumped a bucket of water over her and then really quickly hopped out of the shot before camera rolled.
So the last major chunk of scenes that we needed to film was all of the psychiatrist scenes. We were able to set up some lights kind of in the living room of our Airbnb and really have the time to work through these scenes, because since we were shooting indoors and since it was okay that the scenes looked relatively dark even with the lighting that we put up, it was okay that we were shooting at night. We didn't have to feel rushed for light like we normally would when we shoot most of our things outdoors. We ended up wrapping the film just a little after 11 p.m.
That's a wrap!
And we all felt really good about what we had filmed so far.
I think we kind of just hung out Saturday night after we wrapped filming. Matthew was in like editing zone, but everyone else was enjoying playing a very violent game of table hockey, because the Airbnb had a hockey table. We had one half of our group go home Sunday because some of us lame people couldn't miss work on Monday, and then the other half of our group went home Monday. Matthew was part of the group that had to go home Monday because he needed to spend all of Sunday editing the film.
Something that was really cool with the post-production on this one, a little different than previous 48-hour films, was that I had help in the post-production. Evelyn, who also worked as producer and writer on this film, she was the music supervisor.
While they were actually shooting all of the psychiatrist scenes inside of the office space, I'm right behind the camera on my laptop listening to music and trying to find the music that we would eventually use. And so I found about 40, 50 different songs, and I went, okay, if you do this, you should do this, if you do this, like trying to pair them up in terms of this is how they would cluster together, because each one had a very different vibe. But there were like 4 or 5 different vibes where I'm like, okay, this is what I'm thinking of. And then I think you wound up on taking some from a few of them.
So I was able to read through that, listen to the tracks, and have already kind of a head start on piecing together the music for the film, which ended up being huge because the music in this film really ends up driving a lot of it, especially at the very end when we have the whole third act that basically has no words, but instead is just driven by a very strong emotional piece of music. The edit came together extremely well. In fact, we even had time at the end of the 48 hours for me to render out the film, show it to Evelyn and Rowan, get some feedback, and then go in, make some tweaks, and render it out again.
Rowan and Josh and I and Matthew, we were all sitting on the couch and we're all watching the final cut of it. And Rowan just sits there and goes, I know we can't change it, but it's kind of a bummer. There's a canoe in a shot where a canoe should not be. And we all went, what? Thankfully, we had not submitted it yet, so there was time to fix it. So many eyes help with the editing process, I have learned. So yeah, it was really fun to be a part of the editing, kind of creative part of that side of the team that I hadn't really ever done before. It was fun.
Submitted the film, and we felt great about it. We were really excited about this being just a really strong, emotional, and very twisty and therefore engaging 48-hour film. So it was about 6 weeks later, in the middle of September, that we ended up heading back up to Denver for the Best of Awards ceremony for the Denver 48-Hour Film Project. We had found out that we were selected to be part of the Best of ceremony, which meant it was likely that we had won some sort of award. And as the evening progressed, we ended up finding out that we won 5 awards. That included Best Musical Score, so thank you, Evelyn, again, for picking great music. Chloe Rose won Best Supporting Actress, which was very exciting. Seriah and Evelyn won Best Writing. We won Audience Choice for our screening group, and we won 3rd place overall. Again, a testament to the Los Pintados Studios team and how hard they're willing to work and put themselves into these films that we make. They really threw themselves into this fully. not just in terms of the drowning stunts or, some of the most flashy things like that, but even just everybody willing to spend an entire weekend like this away from home just in order to make a movie. We actually had an amazing time together as a team. There was something really unique about the fact that we were all together as a team for pretty much the entire weekend. A great camaraderie came from the fact that we were all in this together for that weekend up in Colorado.
We've now gotten to watch it twice with a live audience, once when it premiered at Flix when we did a Los Matadas Studios screening, and then once when we got to see it when it was in the Denver award show. And both times the and just the gasps and the sounds of people responding to the story is just really, really cool. So it's great to get to know that you've actually moved people. So I think that's always the goal, and I think we did that with Submerged.
So I think that just about covers the story of the making of Submerged. I hope you enjoyed this behind-the-scenes look at this short film, and we're really excited about what's to come in 2024. And we hope you'll continue to join us for the journey. So until then, I'll see you in the next one.
Every 48.